ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. This is our question and answer feature of the evening, and I'm very happy to have you all here. How's everybody feeling this evening? Inquisitive? Because that's what we're looking for, especially. But we will start with a question. We'll return to all of you. Yes, Ankit.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, my heartfelt gratitude for the polite way you answer all our questions every day. So my question is, today in the morning you explained how there is Lord Vishnu in the supreme way, and then in the universe incarnate by him, he is present and is also present inside our heart. So I want to know, is the Lord Vishnu the supreme? Like, I just want to get clarity about the the lords of this way, and is Vishnu same as the Krishna we are practicing right now? And there is in Sri Bhagavatam we say that there are incarnations of God, the 24, 23 avatars, and Krishna is one of the avatars. So there is Krishna as the avatar and Krishna as the supreme being. So there is little confusion as to how is the supreme being also in one of the avatar also. And one more question also, just related to this. Also, there is many more texts like the Shiv Quran and all, where they say Lord Shiva is the supreme, and there's some text where they say Shakti is the supreme. So who is the supreme? There's some doubt.
Okay. Thank you, Ankit. So those are two big questions. And so we'll take them one at a time. But the first question, let's try to understand the relationship between Krishna and Vishnu. Okay. And different lineages understand it differently. But as I've been explaining in some of these classes, certain great acharyas or great teachers have drawn very clear lines that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the text wherein Vyas tries to clear up everything. And he begins to speak in his most explicit tone. So if we want to understand any text previous to that, essentially all the texts, if we want to understand Vedanta Sutra, if we want to understand Upanishads, if we want to be able to put in context any of the other teachings of the Puranas, where it does appear like it's saying, over here it seems to be saying Shiva is supreme, over here it seems to be saying Devi is supreme, over here we get Vishnu supreme, and then who is Krishna? We would look to the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Vyas is very intentionally trying to answer all these kind of questions. And there's a verse that there's a series of verses in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam where it begins to list many of the avatars. There's a long list. And then it says this verse, a very important verse, Ete Changsa Kala Pungsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svayam. That all of the previous avatars that have been mentioned, they are either plenary portions or portions of plenary portions of Sri Krishna, who is the original, Swayam Bhagavan, the original, the source of everything, the source that everything's coming from. So then let's just speak about Vishnu. Who is Vishnu in relation to Krishna? Particularly, let's speak in terms of the Vishnus of the material realm, because within the spiritual realm, on various spiritual planets, the Vaikunthas, there are Vishnu forms there. But within this material realm, Krishna expands in Vishnu forms to take care of the business of this world. And this is indicating something very essential about who is Krishna. Right? Sometimes people say they call Krishna the God of love. Have any of you heard that before? Krishna, say Krishna is the God of love? Anybody? Nobody? Zero. Nobody's ever heard that. Some people have heard that. Yes. And I think sometimes that's said in a kind of in a casual way. Oh, he's the God of love. He's playing the flute and he dances, and isn't that sweet? And it is sweet. But there's if one could say that Krishna is the God of love in a very serious way. In other words, that speaks something to the nature of Sri Krishna in a very important theological way. That when we go to the very source of everything, the source, Krishna will say in Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, mata sarvam pavarkite, iti madva bhajanti mam buddha bhava samandita. Krishna is saying, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, everything's coming from me. All the spiritual worlds, all the material worlds, all the devas. You know, Arjuna is going to turn to Krishna in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and say, you are the source of everything, including the devas. You're the deva, you're the god of the gods, and so on. Everything's coming from you. He's saying it, and it's not only me that's saying this. This is all the great sages say this. Vyas says it, Asita says it, Devala says it. Everybody says this. So it's texts like that are establishing who is this Krishna. And so when we look deep into the character of Krishna, we're going to see that he has one interest and one interest only. Anyone know what that interest is? Hint, the God of love thing. Love. That's it. He's engaged in Leela. He's engaged in play, divine play, adventures of love. He's living in constant dramatic settings wherein the settings themselves increase the intensity, turn up the volume of the loving exchange. That's Krishna's Leelas. He is engaged in Leela always, eternally, non-stop. When it comes to the workings of the material world, which is a setting in which people may often conceive of God, creator, judge, these kind of roles, he has no interest in that. Right? It's kind of like, say you didn't have any financial concerns, or, would you go to work every day? And so Krishna doesn't need to go to work every day. He can either outsource that to another being that he empowers, or he can expand himself and play that role separately. And that's Vishnu within this world. Vishnu is taking care of this universe on 3 different levels. Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, Kshiradakshi Vishnu. And I can go into that a bit. But let's just look at this. In other words, there does need to be a figure from whom the world is created. That's Vishnu, just in his meditation. He doesn't have to work hard. He just breathes. And in his sleep, in his divine sleep, they call it yoga nidra. Right? In his sleep of yoga, from the pores of his body come unlimited universes. And then in each one of those unlimited universes, he again lies down on the water of that universe as Garbhadakshay Vishnu. From his navel grows a lotus flower. I know these things sound far out and wild, but we could discuss this very seriously. We can go into why this is as reasonable a creation story as any other creation story out there. From his navel grows a lotus flower. Brahma, the creator. Now this Brahma is like you or me. You or I may have been Brahma in a previous life, and we may be in a future life. This is a soul that takes on a role. Brahma is a role, not exactly a person, but a role, a title. A particular role that someone fulfills. And he becomes, Krishna instructs him from within his own heart. What is it? Brahma Hridaya Adikaviye. The original poet, Brahma, his heart is infused by the message of Vishnu. And he gets the power to create just through his meditation. He creates the planets and the solar systems and the stars and the species and the bodies that we inhabit. And so then Vishnu expands the 3rd time. First was Mahavishnu, who creates all the universes, then Garbhadakshay Vishnu, who goes in each universe and gives birth to Brahma. He's the soul of the universe. Just like every living body has a soul, Vishnu becomes the soul. He's what gives life to the universe, right? Who spreads his consciousness throughout the universe. This is what the word Vishnu means, is that which pervades. So his awareness is pervading the entire universe. How? That's the 3rd level of Vishnu, Kshiradakshi Vishnu. In a form of Vishnu, he enters the heart of every living being, and he enters into every atom. So he's conscious of our thoughts, of our awareness, of our desires, of our actions. It's that universal intelligence that is arranging everything, right? Everything, our birth in this particular body. And even as we walk down the street, what we encounter, it's like a big, huge Rubik's Cube where our karma is all playing out perfectly. Perfectly. You ever work a Rubik's Cube before? I know when I was a kid it was a thing. I don't know how much people play with it now, but it's this cube. And the idea is you got to get all the colors on each side lined up. So you move it to try to move the colors on one side in the right position. But when you do that, you're messing up the what you just set up before. So it's complicated. And so we can imagine that each and every living being's karma plays out, even though we're all interacting with each other, is an incalculably complex equation. But this universal intelligence of Vishnu can accomplish it effortlessly. So there's a lot to be done. There needs to be an awareness of God that's monitoring each of our awareness and ready to speak to us when we turn back. There has to be a God that sets off creation and empowers all the living beings and carries out all of this. Krishna does not have to get involved in this. Krishna, his only interest in these sports of love, that we all have the opportunity to enter into and experience the highest level of awareness, the highest, deepest divine love. So that's Krishna. Sometimes the analogy is given, let's say there's a judge, okay? Now, the judge has his life in the courtroom, and he also has his life at home. Right? Now, when he's in the courtroom, he's shown great respect. Everybody shows the judge respect. I don't know in India, in the courtroom, when people are speaking to the judge, what do they call the judge? Is there a term they use? Anyone know? Huh? My lord. It's a British thing. My lord. So very respectful. In the United States, they say Your Honor. Your Honor, I would like to bring in this evidence. It's always Your Honor. Everybody calls him Your Honor. When he walks into the room, every single person stands up. They only sit down after he sits down. If at any point he doesn't like what's going on, he can just take his hammer. He starts to hammer the table, and everybody has to be quiet. So there's total respect shown to him in that room. This is the way we commonly relate to God, right? God is shown awe and reverence. God is great. We're small. Reverence is shown. But then when he goes home, it's a very different atmosphere, right? It's a very different setting, very different environment. And when the judge goes home, he doesn't get the same type of respect, in a sense, right? It's not like when he walks home, his wife says, "Welcome home, Your Honor," right? It's not like she necessarily even stands up, it's like, and she'll call him not Your Honor. She'll either call him by his first name or maybe even with an affectionate term, right? Welcome home, honey. Welcome home, sweetheart. Now, which does he prefer, Your Honor or sweetheart? Sweetheart, right? That touches him more. That interests him more, right? If you go back into the courtroom, even if his wife goes into the courtroom, she's not going to call him sweetheart there. It's a different environment. But when he comes home, you get to see the full person. You get to see part of him in the courtroom. But when he comes home, his full personality is revealed. And the sweet side of his personality, not just the power, not just the intelligence, but the sweetness is also exposed in that setting. Certain people will be able to enter into his home, like his close friends, and they can see more of that. And family members can see still more. And perhaps the wife is going to see the full person, right? So that's Krishna in the spiritual realm. That's Krishna in Vrindavan, where everybody there, they really don't even know that he's God. They love him like a friend, or they love him like a child, or they love him like a lover. That's the origin of everything. That's the full picture of God, and that's the form of God. There's God. He'll manifest in many forms, But that's the form of God that can reciprocate entirely with every single type of love. Right? He's there and he's open, and if you're like, I want to love you like a friend, he's ready to reciprocate with that love. And if you're like, I want to love you just like you're like my own child, he's ready to reciprocate with that kind of love. And if you say, I want to love you like a lover, like a romantic love, he can reciprocate with that love. And if you say, I want to love you like a lover, but like a secret lover that nobody knows about, very, very, very high intensity relationship, right? He can love you like that. He can love you like a wife. He can love you like a paramour lover. He can love you like a friend that's a little bit older. He can love you like a friend that's a little bit younger. He can love, it's like all the different types of love. He's called Akila Ras Amrita Murti. This form of God, which is the original form, can reciprocate with every variety of love. When Lord Ram goes into the forest with Sita, he goes to a forest called the forest of Dandakaranya. And there's sages that understand he is Vishnu, he's the supreme, this Lord Ram. They recognize that, and they recognize Sita is the feminine energy of the divine. And they're watching, they in their hearts, all they want is to love and serve God, these sages. And they do it in meditation. And when they see Sita and how she can serve Ram, they recognize that form, Sita's form, is ideal to serve him in the highest way, to give him the deepest pleasure and happiness. And they all think, if only we had a form like that, we could serve him with such intimacy and please him so much. But they also realize in this incarnation, in this avatar, Ram accepts only one wife. So there's no in, right? But they also realize, they had the vision, he will come again as Krishna. And when he comes as Krishna, he accepts unlimited lovers. So they meditate that in our next birth, may we take birth in Krishna's Leela. And they all take birth as gopis in Vrindavan, right? Where they're given a form where they can serve him in that way. So this tells us something about the difference between Vishnu and Krishna. Now, who's an incarnation of who? Is Krishna an incarnation of Vishnu? Is Vishnu an incarnation of Krishna? Right? And there's a lot of debate about this, but it's there. It's revealed in the verse that I spoke to you from Bhagavatam. Ete chanksa kalapungsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the original form from which all the other incarnations come. But then why? Why are so many people convinced that it's Vishnu? And I can speak to this. You ready? Let's say that, okay, you're from India. And let's say that I'm the ambassador to the United States. Okay? And so I come to India on behalf of the United States. And we develop a relationship. And you say, you know what, I would love to meet with your Secretary of Defense because our Army has a lot of concerns and we'd love to consult with him. And I say, boom, I can make him appear for you, right? I can bring him there. And in a sense, the U.S. Secretary of Defense came through me to you. And then you said, I would also love to speak to the Secretary of State. I'd like to speak to the Secretary of Commerce, and so on. And I was able to bring them and deliver them to you. So in a sense, it seems like I'm expanding. They're coming through me. They all come through me, right? But really, I'm not the person. It's really the president that's sending these people over. But I'm just a contact person that you can see. I'm the one that's in India that you contact, that you reach out to me, and then I reach out to and it's the president that's going to decide whether or not that person appears. Now, what happens if you say, I'd love to meet the president? I'm like saying, okay, let me arrange this. And then I'm able, by speaking to me, the president appears in India. Who's supreme? Is it me or is it the president? It's really the president, but it looks like I made him appear too. right? So this is like Krishna and Vishnu. Krishna's beyond this universe. Vishnu's within this universe, and all the avatars are coming through Vishnu. We call them Vishnu avatars. But when Krishna comes, that's a little different. That's like the president decided to come himself. It's not dependent on the Secretary of State. Every now and then he comes himself, and that's Krishna. Right? So that Krishna is that order, and that's what Vyasa is going to reveal in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there are great acharyas like Rupa Goswami, who's written a book Laghu Bhagavatam Rita, where they analyze all this. They go through all the Puranas and they carefully choose all these different, all the information to spell all this out really clearly. So there's some nice text on that if someone has a deep interest in it. Okay. So your other question was, well, what about if I go to Shiva Purana? It seems like Shiva's supreme. If I go to a Devi Bhagavat, it seems like Devi is supreme. Krishna will tell us in Bhagavad Gita that when one worships the Devas or the Devis, the gods or the goddesses, he says, really, they're just worshiping me. Because whatever they give you, whatever it is that you pray for, and whatever it is that they give you, it comes from me. Just like, and we've been using this analogy for some times here. Maybe you've heard me share it. But just like if a child has a nanny or an au pair, and that au pair brings the meal every day, then in one sense, let me start from the beginning. And some of you have heard this, so forgive me if you've heard it before, but I'll share it again. But I think it gets right to the point. If you have a child, young child, maybe spoiled child. You use the term spoiled in India? Spoiled? A little bit. What do you say in India? You say same thing, spoiled child. So if you ask that child, where do you get your food from? The child say, I get my food myself. Really? You're just 4 years old. How do you get your food yourself? I walk over to the refrigerator, I open up the door, I take out the food. Okay. On one very low level, or very surface level, the child is getting their own food. They go, they open up the refrigerator, they get it out. But anybody that really has deeper knowledge, more clear knowledge, is anyone who's not very ignorant, knows that actually the parents provided the food. Right? The parents bought the food, brought it, put it in the refrigerator thinking of the child. The child is in ignorance and has no appreciation for what's going on. Now let's say that there's a servant in the home that brings the food to the child every day. If the child begins to say, I should thank this servant because they bring me my food every day, they're my provider. Well, on one hand, they're not actually the provider, the parent's the provider. But for them to recognize that there's somebody above me that's providing my meals, that's a step up in knowledge, a step up in appreciation. It's good for the evolution of the child. Krishna is saying that's what's happening when we worship the Devas for the things of this world. He's saying, ultimately, I'm presenting them through these gods and goddesses. And if they worship the god or goddess, they're worshiping me, but they're doing it without real deep knowledge, without full knowledge. Avidi Purvakam is the term that he uses. Avidi Purvakam. They don't really understand how it's all working. But then he says this, and this is really interesting. But if that's what they're doing, I will enter the heart of that person, and from within, I'll encourage their faith in that god or goddess, because it is a step up for them. Now they're becoming more grateful, more appreciative. They're understanding that they don't make everything happen, that they're dependent on higher beings. It's a step up. So Krishna is not like from the Abrahamic traditions, from the Western religions. We often get a picture of, I am God and I'm a jealous God, and if you worship anybody else, you are in big trouble. Krishna is not like that at all. Zero. He's like, I'm a very detached God. I love you, but if you want to go and experiment in other ways, you're free to do that. I'll be waiting here when you come back. And if you want to worship this other Devi or Deva, I will encourage your faith. I'm not in any way insecure or jealous. If it's a step up for you, I'll encourage you. And so therefore, in the Shiva Purana, he'll encourage you to worship Shiva. In the Devi Purana, he'll encourage you to worship Shiva or Devi. But when you want to know the whole truth and who's behind it all, then Bhagavatam is going to reveal all that. And Vyas carefully explains this to us in Srimad Bhagavatam. Is that okay? Okay. Thank you, Ankit. It's a good question. Okay. That was a long one. Any other questions out there? Jamie? Hey? Okay.
So, if you were to get a tattoo,
If I were to get a tattoo,
that symbolized Krishna's love, what form would that look like? Like his flute, or some? I know this is
Yeah.
because I wanted something that would symbolize love. What would be the closest structure?
If I were to get a tattoo that symbolized Krishna's love, what would it be? There's so many directions you can go. It's like there's so many ways. I have friends with lots of tattoos of Krishna, so I can share some of them, you know. But there's different, you see, again, Krishna's Akila Rasamrita Murti. He can love in so many different varieties, right? So, you're talking about Krishna's love for the self or love for Krishna?
What would be like a symbol or that would signify that?
You're looking for a symbol or for maybe a picture of Krishna himself? You're open to all
Yeah, what would you think is a symbol that would trigger you to, as your mind, as a physical mind?
You know, Radha and Krishna. Radha and Krishna together. You know, that's the object of divine love and the subject of divine love, right? Radha is the personification of divine love, and Krishna is the object of that divine love. So in one sense, that's like a nice complete picture. You know? There's one form of Radha and Krishna together where they're linked up. Their legs are linked and they're embracing one another and they're both playing kind of, she's holding the flute up to his mouth. They're kind of like, they kind of become like one.
So is that why when I've seen things with a flute and a feather and heat? Or is that what people do?
Some people may do that, but you're you're asking me, so I'm telling you the direction I would probably go. Yeah. Thank you. Other non-tattoo related questions. Although tattoo related questions are fine as well. Yeah, I can.
As we all know that we all are created by God himself, and it is also said that God always existed, is existing, and will exist forever. But still my mind wonders, like, how can he, from where did he come? There has to be some source. Like, how can he always be there? There has to be some way that he came. Like, it just keeps on coming to my mind.
So the question is, if God creates everything, but who created God? In a sense. And so you see that question, to really get into that question, it means that the imagination has to stretch, the mind has to stretch, because we have minds that are conditioned by the law of time. So we always see that there's something that created anything. And these are called relative truths, right? Like, in other words, if I say, who created you? Then we could go back and find that your existence is in relation to a source that precedes you. So your existence within the material realm is a relative truth. It's dependent on something previous. So then we would find your parents. And then we say, okay, but let's follow this back another step. Where did they come from? Because if we're going to get to your origin, we're going to need to go back further, apparently. Who created them? And then you would have your grandparents. Okay, and then you could keep going like this, back. So that is a type of thinking that is shaped by our existence within the material realm. Right? And the material realm operates under a force. Just like there's a force of gravity, right? That we can all see and how it functions, and everything is kind of being under its influence. So there's a force called time that operates here, and that force is keeping everything moving, right? And that force, with that force, we could say this began at this point in time. This began at that point in time. This began at that point in time. Now there's a brilliant scripture, Vedic scripture, called the Brahma Samhita. These are the prayers of Brahma himself, the creator. So we're going to like the most intelligent being and the original being in the universe. Let's get your understanding of how things work. And he begins that text with this verse, Ishvara Parama Krishna. Ishvara means the controller, right? You find that the Supreme is spoken of as Ishvara in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, right? Where he says that you can achieve samadhi simply through Ishvara Pranadan, by giving your life to the Ishvara. Although it doesn't go into great detail on who that Ishvara is in the text, but it mentions the Ishvara. Ishvara Param, there's so many controllers, right? Your boss is on one level of control, and then there are the Devas, they're controllers. But the Ishvara Parama, the highest, the original, the Ishvara of all the other Ishvaras, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. His form is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. So now he's spelling out a picture for us that relates to your question. It's saying that there is a controller that everything comes from. This is Krishna. He's the highest. He's the highest one. His form is Sat. It's eternal. What does that mean? It has no beginning, right? That's a little hard for us to grasp because we're used to seeing everything has a beginning. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir. Adir Govinda. He is called Govinda. He has no beginning. He has no end. Anadir Adir Govinda. Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all other causes. Okay? So when you ask who is his cause, he is the cause. He's the end cause. But what about what comes before him? He's eternal. He's not within the realm of time. So we're used to seeing everything within the realm of time. It has a beginning point. He has no beginning point. He's always existed. He's beyond time. There has to be something. If you take all the material ingredients of the universe and they're sitting there like a batter, it's never going to develop into anything unless there's something from outside that stimulates it. And like, for instance, heat will make a batter turn into like a cake, right? There has to be, within this universe, everything is governed by time. There would have to be something outside the universe to get everything started. And so it would take an instigator, a stimulus, that's outside the realm of time or outside this universe to set everything off. And so the sages are telling us that is Krishna, who is beyond the realm of this universe, who is the cause of all causes. Right? Now, of course, we are also Satchidananda. We are also eternal. Right? So then that means we don't have a beginning or an end either. So then why is Krishna the cause of all causes and not us? Because we are dependent on him. Right? We are dependent. He's not dependent on us. Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. Amongst all of the Nityas, all the eternal beings, the many are dependent on one eternal being. Chaitanas Chaitananam. Amongst all the conscious beings, the many are dependent on one conscious being. Right? And that's Sri Krishna. That's the being that everything is emanating from, everything is resting on, everything is dependent on, is Sri Krishna. If you try to find his beginning, you won't find it. You have to stretch the imagination to understand that there is existence beyond the law of time, which is challenging for the mind. All right? Jiva.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. So, as usual, amazing clap pass. There's nothing I can say about that. The only thing I would, it's sort of a couple of things I could touch upon as far as down here in the suffering of the ocean's material misery. So we're born into these bodies with this disease condition. And while we have the absolute formula of how not to suffer, right?
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, yeah. Each person is sort of born with their own sort of designed karma. And so let's say, I mean, I would imagine there's a measuring stick of 0 to 100 and minus 100. I'm born, I feel like I was born minus 50. And like, so I'm on 0, and someone else, maybe yourself or someone else, was born on 0 and went to 50. Now, you traveled 50 in advancement, as I traveled 50 in advancement. How does Krishna see that? Like, this is how I see it. I see this, that I've made amazing advancements, but I'm still very low in my being able to only concentrate on Krishna. I still think that my mind can remove my own character defects. I still can take control constantly when I know that I can't, and I don't have that control. All I have to do is give it over to Krishna. And I have to do the things that I need to do to chant my rounds, to do all of these things. But there is a big gray area between all of that. I know that in the end, if you chant your rounds nice, if you do these things nice, if you do all of these things nice, if you can do these things nice, then there's a lot of relief in this world from that. So people like me, I consider myself a Jadai Madai. I consider myself someone fallen, who's had the mercy of God being able to pull me up to a certain level. So how is it that, so that everybody has their karma, how is it when we say, like, here's the level we should be at, here's the standard, here's the level. And people like myself, we struggle to get to that level. We're walking forward, but we struggle to get to that level, and that's the standard. What would you say that we just keep chanting and keep doing the same thing, or would you say, how would you advise somebody in that situation who knows that here's the thing, here I am, and I can't even do these things properly in order to get to that higher standard? You know what I'm...
I think so.
Okay.
So let me see if I understand. You're saying that for some people, that in order to, and you use the term like you'll find relief from suffering, but, and I'm going to address that in a sense, but in order to fully evolve, let's say, let's start there. In order to fully evolve, it requires spiritual practices. And those spiritual practices usually involve having a concentrated mind. Okay? And some of us have a more difficult time concentrating our minds. So, what to do for those people? What's going on right in there right now? Kirtan is really ideal for the sage, because in Srimad Bhagavatam, it begins with the sages of Naimisharanya. They're all gathered around. This is the very beginning of Bhagavatam. And you have a whole group of sages. They know the dark age is coming. This age is coming. And they turn to Sutta Goswami, who they're saying he's got the most deepest understanding of all of the Vedic texts. We're going into this dark age. None of us are sure about what's the best prescription for how to advance in this age. What can we do to help people in this age? And they tell him this age is going to be dark, and this is what it's going to be like. And they say, Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya Upadutaha. That in this age, people are going to have short lives, short memories. They're going to be unlucky. They're going to be misguided. And most of all, always disturbed. Right? Their minds are always, that's us. right? So you might say, you might like look at me and you and say, okay, you're at this point and I'm at that point. But really, all of us are kind of really low on the scale compared to the beings of the Satya Yuga, who could sit and live a life that was many thousands of years and have a mind just perfectly, deeply concentrated. We're all walking around with minds full of samskars and full of memories and full of garbage from all of the junk that we've been exposed to in this life. None of us, practically none of us, very few of us, have been brought up with really pure samskars. And so in one sense, we're all struggling. That being said, and by the way, the answer would be practice bhakti. And throughout Bhagavatam, it's going to prescribe the chanting of God's names. Beginning of Bhagavatam, end of Bhagavatam, all throughout Bhagavatam. Literally beginning and end, last verse. And the first instruction coming from Shukadeva Goswami is to chant the holy names. The last verse of Bhagavatam, it says that this age is an ocean of faults, but it has one great benefit, and that is that simply by chanting the names of God in kirtan, that one can achieve the full goal of yoga like that. So that's there. It means we got to make time in our life to get into kirtan, chant God's names. That's there. But let's zoom back a little from your question. I want to be clear that while these practices are how we practice bhakti, bhakti is not. We don't say that it's here's the formula. You just crank up the formula and you get this result that comes out the other end. It's not a mechanical process. It's not like, oh, you need to learn so many verses to be able to chant them. You have to chant so many rounds. You have to go to so many. So I'm addressing that. You have to go to so many holy places. You have to do so much of this and so much of that, and then the result is you get pure love of God. This pure love of God is called causeless mercy. Causeless. In one sense, it's always there. It's just we need to receive it. It's not that we generate it through our actions. It's not like karma. See, karma is a law of cause and effect. Bhakti is causeless. Right? That's what's the first verse that the answer to the question, the first big question in Bhagavatam is what brings the highest good to all mankind? What gives complete satisfaction to the self? And there it said, Savai Pungsa, for all humanity, Paro Dharmo, the highest Dharma, Yato Bhakti Adhoksaja is offering a devotion of love unto Adhoksaja, unto the Supreme Lord, unto Krishna. Ahoitaki, it must be unmotivated. Apratiyata, unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Right? So it's not that we say, it's like in the karmic endeavors, I have a motive, I do the action, I get the results. Bhakti, it means it's a whole different type of thinking. It's a whole different type of thinking. It's like whether I'm suffering just like you're a mother, you take on suffering out of love for your daughter, for your son. The mother doesn't think, I just want a life free of suffering. The mother acts out of love for the child. Right? If the mother were to say, I only take care of the child if the child's giving me pleasure, that's not love. Right? So similarly, it's not that we're pure bhakti means it's ahoitaki. It's free of personal motivation. And the two motivations that are defined, specifically defined, are karma and jnana. So karma, the motive behind karma is I want to enjoy the things of this world. I want the pleasures of this world. I want happiness. I want prosperity. I want wealth. I want fame, beauty, power, influence. I want to rise to the higher planets and enjoy on a much higher level. All these kind of things. I want the birth of a healthy child. I want rain for my crops. These are all material considerations. They're not evil, but you love whether you're getting those or not. Love is meant to be, whether I'm getting that or not, I love. My love is free of that motive. Right? Just like a parent says, I will love you, my child, if you provide me this and provide me. No. The love is causeless. Right? And then the other motive is the motive in jnana, which is moksha. I want for once and for all to be free of all of the sufferings of this world because I can't take it anymore. Right? Mother doesn't say that either. Mother's not asking for moksha from the child. Mother's got love no matter what. Right? Oh, you're excelling in school. Oh, you're in prison. I love you either way. Right? Oh, you support me. Like you've got a job and now you're supporting me. Oh, you don't. I love you either way. That's love. That's bhakti is meant to get us to that point. And there's nothing that we can do externally to generate it because it's coming from the heart. So when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayasyati. He says, one can offer me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water. He doesn't even say one should offer me all their wealth. He says, you got a leaf. You can offer it to me, I'll accept it. If it's offered with love. Otherwise, I'm not really interested in it. If you offer me a mansion, if you offer me your entire bank account, if you offer me a planet, I'm not so interested in it. If you offer with love, then I'll gladly accept it. If you offer me a leaf and there's bhakti there, I'll accept it. Because it's actually not the leaf or the bank account that he's accepting, it's the love that he's accepting. Because as we were saying earlier, Krishna is God of love, and his only interest is love. So the reason that we do the practices is because we want to practice becoming receptive to his mercy. We want to open ourselves up to receiving his mercy, which is causelessly there for all of us at any time we want it. Right? And we can all accept it at any time we want it. But we're just choosing not to accept it. We're choosing something instead. Right? Yeah. And so bhakti, like any yoga, is about absorbing the mind. Absorbing the mind in the name is how it flows through that. But really, even if we have trouble chanting and keeping our mind fixed, we still practice it. But at any moment we can pray. Right? From with the core of our heart we can pray and we can express honestly where we're at. You know, my dear Lord, I want to become your devotee. And I know that I tell you this, and yet still I act in ways that are not like you do. So look how impure my desire to love you is. How I wish that desire were entirely pure. How I wish that were the case. Can you please help me? Because I know I'm giving you mixed messages all the time. I want to approach you with an entirely pure heart. Please, please, and this is the scary part, please do whatever is necessary in my life so that I can come to that point. Right? Is that what you want? Yes, that's what I want. Okay, are you ready? Yeah, then you may. But then when that happens, when we go through some suffering, then we say, why are you doing this to me? Right? Just like a parent will sometimes, the child's behaving like this, the child's playing like this, and then the parent will, okay, this is what we're going to do now. Why are you doing this to me? Right? So, you know, we're trying to get Krishna's mercy in any way that we can. Let me eat only food that's offered to you. Let me hear the chanting of your names. Let me find your devotee and let me hang on to them. Because it says that the devotee is even more merciful. This is a key. Okay, this is key. It said that the devotee of Krishna is more merciful than Krishna. How is that possible? How can anyone be more of anything than Krishna? What to speak of more merciful than Krishna? But this goes right back to it because we're given mixed messages all the time. We might be saying, Krishna, I want to love you. But at other times we're saying, Krishna, I don't want to hear from you right now because I want to focus on something and I want to exist in a state of forgetfulness of you because I want to enjoy this right now, which is entirely separate from you. So in a sense, we're telling him, don't interfere. And he's like that parent, that loving parent that realizes sometimes I have to let the child, the child's not ready to hear. And if I get in there and try to say more, the child, it actually turns him away even more. Right? So sometimes the parent has to let the child experiment the way they want and hope that they turn back. But sometimes there's another person. The parent realizes the more I say at this point, the worse it gets. The more they turn away. You've experienced this as a mother, probably.
Not from my son, but from my daughter.
From your daughter. Okay. So you have to deal with them differently. But sometimes there's someone that can speak on your behalf, that can speak on behalf of the parent, that can say the same things, but the child's going to receive them in different. Like, say there's the cool aunt or uncle, right? Or a friend of the family, like an intimate friend of the family that the child is really always loved. This person has never disciplined the child. They've only have an open and friendly relationship with this person. And that person comes and say, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you turning away from your parents like this? Don't you know that they love you? Well, they're always telling me this and they're telling me that. Sarva Dharma Pariti Job, Mame Kam Sharanam, they just abandon everything and turn to me. Right? And I don't want to hear that right now. But come on. Come on. Don't you know that it's a message of love that they're sharing with you? I know that. I can tell you absolutely that they entirely love you and that everything that they do, even the punishments, they were doing out of love for you. And then you're like, okay, maybe, because you're hearing it from, you wouldn't have been ready to hear that from the parent, but you're ready to hear that from this friend. So therefore the devotee of Krishna can be more merciful. They can come and speak when Krishna can't speak to you. When you're not willing to hear Krishna speak to you, they can come in there and share what needs to be shared. So the connection with the devotee of Krishna is the most powerful conduit of Krishna's grace. More grace, more mercy than Krishna himself. So don't worry about any external material disqualification. Maybe my mind is crazy and always disturbed. Maybe I'm in this situation or that situation. These are insignificant things. Krishna's in the heart of every living being. We can turn back at any moment and we can beg and we can cry and we can just say, please. There's no material impediment. There's even a crazy mind. There's still no material impediment. We can overcome all of these impediments. He's just waiting for us to sincerely say, I want back. And that's it. That's it. All the practice, I'm not saying the practices aren't important, but our inability to practice any particular practice or weakness in practicing practice, it's not that we do it by our power. There are paths of yoga that are largely dependent on one's self-discipline, on one's renunciation, on one's ability to perform austerity, things like this. Bhakti, none of that's required. All that's required is we say, I want it. It's just our desire. I want your grace. I want your mercy. Right? And sometimes the difficult material circumstances, sometimes they even turn out to be favorable. Right? Sometimes they even turn out to be favorable. So, no need, and I'm not saying this is exactly what you're doing, but no need to say, oh no, I'm down here and other people are up here and I've got it worse. Or, whatever distance could be made up or not in 10 years or 20 years or in a lifetime is a speck. If we could zoom out, if we could look at our own journey through many bodies, let's say we could look at 20 bodies back and 20 bodies forward. We could zoom out and say, look at that. It would be so, imagine how profound that experience would be. Oh, I was a woman. I was a dog. I was a tree. I was kind of like on a high spiritual level here. I was living in India. I was a king. I was this, I was that. What it would do, it would give us this Brahman realization, right? I'm not any of these bodies. I had a peaceful mind in this one. I had a disturbed mind in this. I had the dog's mind in this one. I was just chasing whatever dogs chase after. You know, and then I was in this one, I was in this one. I'm none of these. I'm beyond all of this. I'm beyond it all. Right? We just need to learn to think like that. We need to see through the eyes of the Shastra, and we can see that. Even if we can't see exactly the lifetimes that we've been through, we can see that I'm not this body and I'm not this mind. That this is just equipment that I'm using, including my mind and all of its impressions, like that. Bhakti can fix it all, but even one can say, Krishna, my mind is crazy. I can look at it, and in my moments of clarity, I can look at my own mind and see just how wild and insane it is, and it's got all kind of bizarre attachments. But I'm here underneath that mind, and I want you, and I want to serve you with love, and that's really what I want. When my mind is saying crazy things, or when I'm saying crazy things through my disturbed and warped mind, please don't take that seriously. Please take this prayer seriously. This is me underneath. Please hear me. Like that. Bhakti is always, in Bhakti, there's never any cause to feel hopeless. There's only cause to feel hopeful. Only cause to feel hopeful. Because we're that far away. Krishna's right there next to us. And he's all powerful. He's just waiting for us to turn back. It's a simple, simple thing. All the practices are beautiful and they're deep, and they have their deep effect, and they're important, no doubt. But they're just to get us to that point. They're just to get us to that point. You know, you look at the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Vedanta Sutra, the Mahabharata, all the Puranas, they all build to the Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam builds to the 10th canto. And the 10th canto builds to the climax, which is Krishna's Rasa Leela with the gopis. Right? That's what Vyasa has worked up to this point. And that's where we get the deepest message of yoga from the Yogeshwaris, the cowherd girls of Vrindavan. They're teenage girls. They're like 14 years old, 15-year-old girls. They're not jnanis. They're not yogis. Although they're called the Yogeshwaris, because they are the real, their minds are most completely focused on the ultimate object of meditation, Krishna, with the deepest feelings. And Krishna plays his flute on one full moon evening in the autumn season. And they all come running from their homes. They leave everything behind. All their dharmas they leave behind. Dharma being a mother, dharma being a wife, dharma being a daughter. They abandon all their dharmas. And they're being told, if you're going to run out, we hear that flute. We know who's out there. If you're going to run out and abandon your family like this, don't even come back. Right? They're risking everything. And they get out to the forest by the bank of the Yamuna River, and there they see Krishna. Right? There's no more beautiful sight for the eyes than this form. He's so beautiful. He's so charming. And this flute music was just pulling their heart. And now they're there, and they're like, here we are. We're yours. And Krishna says to them, what are you all doing here? Why did you come here? Young girls coming out in the middle of the night to be with a young boy? This isn't good. You should all turn back right now and go back to your homes. Right? Go back to your dharmas. Right? And right now, right here, the highest message of yoga is delivered, right? This is the pinnacle of all Vyasa's work. And now we're going to hear the most important message, where yoga leads, out of the mouths of these girls. And Krishna's teasing them like this, right? You should all go back. They just left their home. They came running out, risked everything to be with him. They're the most beautiful women in all existence. And he says, oh, you should all turn back and go back. And then they, with tears in their eyes, they share this message. And I'll paraphrase the message. But essentially what they say is, you're telling us to go back to our dharmas. We've done so many dharmas, right? Every one of us has been through lifetime after lifetime of doing different works in this world to try to find some joy in this world, try to find some pleasure in this world, try to find satisfaction of the self in this world. They're saying we are not no longer going to look for satisfaction anywhere but in serving you with love. That's all we want. Either accept us or don't. But we've come to the stage where we are yours. And with tears in their eyes, they're saying, all we ask is that you please accept us. Okay. Right? That's it. That's the goal of all the Vedic literature. We've all been going through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after life. We don't know how many lifetimes of trying to find complete satisfaction of the heart and never, ever being satisfied. Because we'll never be satisfied until we're situated in our eternal Dharma. And that is loving service to the root of all existence, to Sri Krishna. And so we're meant to come to the stage where with tears in our eyes, we make the same prayer with complete sincerity. I don't want anything anymore. I just want to, with a heart full of love, to serve you and satisfy you. Please accept my service. That's it. And no matter how we get there, that's where we're meant to go.
Thank you. That was the best answer ever. Had tears in my eyes. So let's go back to that Christian faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
So it's kind of saying that. And basically we just move forward and pray that Krishna shines his mercy upon us.
You should take the practices seriously. You should, I understand, you should take the practices seriously, but you should not let your inability to practice them perfectly discourage you. It should only encourage you, right? We can try to chant with a pure mind. We can try to chant with a fully attentive mind, with a fully absorbed mind. And we may be able to do it, maybe not. We may have no taste. We may go chant that name, and the mind is just so wild that it can't get absorbed and taste the taste that's there. We'll take refuge in the teachings of the sages, like Rupa Goswami, who says that our material conditioning is like being diseased, like the disease of jaundice. Has anyone ever had jaundice before? You've had. So when you have jaundice, it's like you kind of turn yellow. Your skin turns yellow, your eyes turn yellow, everything turns yellow. And anything that you eat, particularly sweet stuff, tastes bitter. Right? So even you're eating the sugar, it tastes bitter. So they're saying when we're in this disease condition, even when we're chanting Krishna's names, it doesn't taste sweet to us. But what's the cure for jaundice? Sugar candy. And you eat the sugar candy. And when you're eating the sugar candy, it tastes bitter. But then as you start to get better, it starts to taste sweet. And when it tastes fully sweet, then you're cured. And so similarly, we'll chant this name even if it doesn't taste sweet. We'll sit down to chant japa. I'm going to chant 16 rounds of japa every day. And I don't have any taste for it, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to pray, and I'm going to try my best. And if I don't succeed today, that's okay. I'm going to come back tomorrow and do it again. And it may not be sweet now, but eventually I know, despite my crazy mind, despite all my disqualifications, someday Krishna's going to rain his mercy down upon me. Maybe tomorrow, and maybe a year from now, and maybe 10 years from now, maybe 10 lifetimes from now. I see that all as a very short amount of time.
Thank you. We've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
So much like faith without works is dead, work without faith is also dead. And I fall into a trap often of, if I work this hard, if I keep working, it's a doing. I'm a human doing, not a human being all the time.
Yeah.
So just doing and doing. And sometimes it's just about Krishna's mercy, is it not?
It totally is. And this reminds me of something this statement. Sometimes it's accredited to Abraham Lincoln, who was an American president, for those who don't know. And he may have said it, or someone else may have said it. He probably didn't say it. But anyway, we say he said it. So he said that if you're asking me to chop down a tree, and I got 5 minutes to chop down the tree, right? So he said, I'll spend the first 4 minutes sharpening the blade of the axe, right? And then I'll chop it down in 1 minute, right? But if I take a dull axe and I'm trying to hack away, I could go at it for an hour and the tree will never come down, right? So we can think of this in terms of bhakti practice. I could chant, right? But if I haven't developed the sentiments that I need to develop, see, there's going to be certain knowledge, certain sentiments, and certain lifestyle practices that are going to help me advance. The power is there in the name, but I'm not receptive to it. So it's kind of like, let me spend time also, it's not just the time when I'm sitting and chanting that's important. It's how I'm preparing myself in my life to chant. Okay? That's why we have 10 offenses in the chanting of the holy name. Those are lifestyle, aspects of our lifestyle or our faith that will help facilitate our chanting that name with full absorption. So one key thing that I would focus on, you see, is it all becomes my heart becoming aligned with the heart of Krishna. And that means that everything that Krishna sees as sacred and special and dear, I need to begin to see as sacred and special and dear, and I need to begin to relate to it that way. And the most important among the dear things to Krishna, what's dear to Krishna? Huh? What's most dear to Krishna? Okay, this is going to be good because you're never going to forget. Well, love, but who does he love?
Devotees.
Okay. So there's nothing more dear to Krishna than his devotees. It was not a trick question. So how we treat Krishna's devotees, that's a yoga in itself, right? In other words, how we respect them, how we serve them. That's is right there. If we spend 5 minutes, or out of the 5 minutes, 4 minutes serving his devotees with humility, and then 1 minute chanting, then we're going to chant that name. You understand? Like, in other words, if we spend our time really learning how to respect the Vaishnavas, how to serve the Vaishnavas, how to honor them, how to not allow our minds to become... I had some thoughts today. I'm trying to remember what it was. But I was just thinking, when it comes to Krishna's devotees, I just have to see the good in them. I know that I behave in ways that other devotees look at me and say, what's with that guy? You know? And I know that I see other devotees like that too. And I just have to rise beyond that. Right? Whatever is good and sacred in them, I have to see it and honor that and pay more attention to that. It's said that when it comes to bhakti, we can't be like the fly. We need to be like the bee. Like the fly is always going for the garbage, right? And the bee is always going for the nectar. You don't see the bees around all the garbage. The bees are around the flowers. They look for that. Right? They're looking for that. How we see, what is it? It was Lord Shiva that said, Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam param. He's saying to Durga, to Parvati, Aradhananam sarvesham, amongst all the different types of worship, Aradhananam sarvesham, amongst all types of worship, Vishnu Aradhanam param. The worship of Vishnu is the highest worship. Mata parakaram devi todiyanam samarchanam. But even higher than the worship of Vishnu is worshiping what's dear to Vishnu. Worshipping what's related to Vishnu, worshipping what's dear to Vishnu, and especially all the great acharyas say, especially that means Vishnu's devotees, Krishna's devotees. Right? Just like if someone wanted to please you, It's going to mean more to you if you're very kind and sweet to your children than to yourself even. It'll touch your heart even more, right? It'll touch your heart even more. When we relate to Krishna's devotees like that, then it means more to him. Now we're moving in harmony with his heart, with his desire. Our heart is becoming aligned with his heart. And then you're more receptive to that grace that's, again, there all along. So these are keys. These are keys. If we're hacking away with a dull blade, we can keep hacking and say, I guess I'm not good at chopping wood. Right? Yeah. Right. So then there are aspects of devotional service that don't necessarily require a deeply meditative mind, but it's just a shift in our vision and in our action. And that can be how we relate to Krishna's devotees, how we see them. So that's one thing. Okay. Thank you, Jimmy. Question, sir. Your name? Okay.
It's what I take away from this lecture. For me, is the three things which are noted down.
Okay.
The three things for me to take away.
Note taker.
Yeah, it's for me. It's for me. It may help you also. I don't. It's so the three things for as you told me, told us. Three things are required for Krishna mercy. One is knowledge. Second is sentiment, and the third is lifestyle. And in lifestyle,
I would like to just
is faith. In lifestyle, it means faith.
I wouldn't exactly say knowledge, but what I said are the right conceptions. Conceptions, which you could call that knowledge. But in other words, it's not that one needs to be a great jnani, but one needs to understand who I am in relation to God, and that we call sambandha jnana. Right? So I want to be clear about that. But as far as lifestyle, what I meant is there are certain practices that we do, like waking up early is favorable for chanting, because you're at the right time of day, and not eating too much or eating too little, not sleeping too much. There's aspects of our lifestyle that will help facilitate our absorption in bhakti. Okay? Thank you. Yes? Remind me of your name, please.
I'm Carlo.
Carlo, that's right. Where are you from, Carlo?
I'm from Italy.
Okay.
I was in the practice this morning.
Yes.
And you told us about different Brahman realization.
Yes.
Realization.
Yes.
So my question is a Vedanta realize this universal truth? One of these is Paramatma, right? Paramatma, right?
Yes.
One of these realization. And one of the points of this side of the universal truth is that we are always connected with the maintainer of the universal order. So my question is, as devotees, we are agents of this universal order, or shall we be immersed in the love and let him take over the universe?
That's a very interesting question. So let me see if I understand. You're saying that Krishna expands as Vishnu. Krishna is interested in love. He expands as Vishnu, and he helps maintain order. Should we help Vishnu maintain order, or should we just focus on Krishna with love? And in one sense, everything that Krishna does, including appearing as Vishnu and maintaining the universe, is all out of love. It's kind of like, and maybe this is a crude example, but let's just try to see if we can understand the message behind it. In one sense, we look at a prison. Is a prison, the prison is a function of the government. And is it a function that's coming out of a dark side of the government? Or is it a function that's coming out of the goodness of the government? We would say it's ideally, and I'm not saying it always works this way, but ideally it's there to protect the citizens as well as to reform the citizens. It's ideally, the prison is a place like, you poor criminal, look how you've been acting. You've caused pain to others, and that's going to cause suffering for yourself. We want to create a system whereby you will evolve out of that. So in one sense, just like the punishment of a parent is out of love, So similarly, the prison is in its sense, it's a compassionate feature of the government. And so similarly, whatever Vishnu is doing here in terms of maintenance is an expression of the love of Vishnu. So however we serve Vishnu or however we serve Krishna, we're serving that God of love, whether it's his expansion or his original form.
So we should go. So the answer is yes, we should go out of our way to help maintain order if we understand his idea of order.
So there are many ways that a person can serve in this world. Some ways that we serve are inherently acts of bhakti. Everything that's going on here right now is inherently an act of bhakti, right? Serving Krishna's prasadam, that's inherently an act of bhakti. Chanting Krishna's names is inherently an act of bhakti. And these are all services. And that's a beautiful way to serve. But there are other acts that we can do that aren't inherently acts of bhakti, but they can be tied in to bhakti. They can be connected to bhakti. And so we can serve in any of those ways, like that. And ideally, if we're a serious practitioner of bhakti, then we have some sections of our life, some hours in the day, some days in our month, some months in our year, some years of our life that are exclusively devoted to that full, inherently kind of bhakti activity. But it doesn't mean that we can't involve our own occupation. I may be a musician, I can engage in bhakti. I may work in something that seems entirely unrelated, and I may find a way to tie it in, whether it's through offering some of the profits or some other way. What's the best way for a particular person to serve? This is where Guru comes in and helps. I can understand your situation in this world right now. I'm going to try to find the right engagement for you that maybe is not too drastic so that everything falls apart. That's the right balance of how you can be engaged. For one person, they're in a particular situation, who's going to say, go to Vrindavan and chant Krishna's names and read Bhagavatam. And someone else, he's going to say, speak about Krishna wherever you go, you know. And someone else, he's going to say, stay in your job and take care of your family, but help support these activities with your profits, and chant this much in the day, and read this much in a day, and also there's this other special way that you can, you know. So it's like exactly how one serves can be prescribed, like a doctor prescribes medicine for patients. Is that a gesture?
Just one last example. So imagine that we're a beginner teaching this deep, and we see someone that's eating non-blessed food. We pass by the street and we see them eating non-blessed food. Should we, without even the proper knowledge of how to instruct this person to understand the importance to do it, shall we stop and try to make them understand the necessity to be blessed, to eat this food? Or should we go by our day and focus on our practice?
That's, you know, there are different people that operate different ways. Like you read in the Bible, there's John the Baptist, right? In Italian, how do they say that? Battista. Giovanni Battista. So he was like, he would stand in front of everyone and say, repent from your sins, you know. And to this day, we see people following that model, right? They stand out in the street and they just scream at everybody, you're going to go to hell if you don't stop this right now. Maybe it worked for John the Baptist, but it doesn't seem to work for most people, right? It seems like most people just say, shut up, you know. So we we need to be. There's a saying in English. I don't know if they have something like this in Italian, but it's the operation was successful, but the patient died. Do you have anything like that? Right? We did all the steps that you're supposed to do, but the end result was like, it didn't work. So, we might say the right thing to say is to tell them this, but is it going to actually, are they going to be able to absorb it? And if we knew that they would take that message to heart, then go ahead and say it. But if they're not going to take it to heart, then what's even the point? So that I can feel like I'm doing the right thing? You understand? It's not about, sometimes I feel preachers in any religion or spiritual group, it's really more about them feeling good about themselves than it is about actually affecting some kind of positive change. And so if we're sincere and thoughtful in how we go about sharing wisdom, then it'll be more effective. And ultimately it'll be more sincere. Other great, who was it that said, one should preach as much as possible, something like this, right? Preach the message of God as much as possible, and when necessary, use words, right? In other words, mostly we're trying to tell everybody what to do. What's more effective is how we live,
St. Francis.
Was it St. Francis? Yeah. San Francisco. So how we go about it will be different for different people. People have different aptitudes. Like I'm sitting here with the microphone going on for like an hour and a half. And for some people, that's a great thing to do. And other people either can't do it, like they feel they don't have the ability to do it, or they have another way. There's a whole team of people putting on this whole festival, and everybody's playing their role. Some people are the big kirtan leaders, and everybody's hearing from them every night. And some people you don't see. They're in the kitchen cooking, and everybody's playing their role. And it's not that one role is better than another, but everybody's finding the right role for themselves. And really it's just a question of giving ourselves entirely to that role. It'll be different for different people. But these are very good questions. I appreciate them. Thank you. I think we may be out of time. Overtime? Huh? It's 8:30. Okay. What was this question that I didn't answer? I think I answered all three, but if there's something in particular that you thought I didn't answer.
What you are saying is all the religions,
Yes?
they have to come together.
All the religions have to come together? I didn't know that that's what he was asking, but...
He came late. That is why he could not get the custom.
I'm sorry?
He came late.
I see.
That is why he cannot get the crux of it.
Okay, I'm not sure what he said that, but I did the best I could. I'm sorry.
What was the question, sir?
He had 3 questions.
Oh, three.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you all so much. Jamie, tomorrow. You come a little earlier. 7. Yeah, 7 till 8:30. Thank you all so much. Hari Om Tat Sat. Oh, by the way, if anyone would like recordings of these Q&As that we're doing every night, or the classes that we're giving at 9 a.m. every day, except for Mondays, so not tomorrow, then you can speak to Gabrielle here and she can give you the code and you can get connected. Thank you. Hare Krishna.